Hello and a very warm welcome to you as you join us for another Paramics Workshop 2020. My name is Malcolm Calvert. I'm the Director of Paramics Microsimulation based here in Edinburgh in Scotland, and it's a great pleasure to join you once again for another workshop all about Paramics. Now, this is the 8th session in our series. If you haven't seen the previous 7, you can find them all on our YouTube channel and support centre. And in this session today, we're going to be looking again at features coming in to Paramics Discovery 24, which is going to be launched this month, September 2020. So in just a couple of weeks' time, you'll be able to use all of the new features that you see in this session today. And if you want to find out the other features in version 24, they're all covered in previous workshop sessions. So thanks again for joining us. Let's dive straight into today's session. So the first feature I want to show you today is the ability now to add a variation in public transport dwell times. And this can be a really useful feature to just add some more realism into the operation of public transport within your models. Previously to this version, your dwell times had to be a fixed time, and so every time the bus would stop at a stop, it would stop for the same amount of time for that service at that stop. But now we can add in some variation, which of course will reflect reality more effectively because buses stop for different amounts of time, depending on the time of the day, the number of passengers that are getting on, and so on. So let's have a look at how we apply this new feature. I'm going to demonstrate this using the model in front of me, and I'm going to look at the model in version 23 and also in version 24. So you can see I've got two versions open here. And the version 24 model has a slightly lighter background, so that's how we can tell we're in 24. Now in 23, if I go to my PT services via the Edit Network menu and have a look at a given bus stop, so here's PT stop 72, you can see there for that bus stop, for this given service, we've got a stop time of 10 seconds. Now if I go to the same model in version 24, I'll pick the same service, Route 1 eastbound, and have a look at the same PT stop. You can see that you can now set a minimum stop time and a maximum stop time. Okay, so it's quite a subtle difference in the user interface, but it can have a significant impact in the operation of your network depending on the timings that you choose. Okay, so I'm going to change the maximum stop time here to 20 seconds, and we'll keep the minimum stop time there as 10 seconds, and we'll use that for this example. Now, if I have a look at my PT schedules, I can see that this bus is running every minute, so I'll be able to catch one once we go to the simulation very quickly. Now, in my Visualize tab, I'm going to refresh and just set the speed to something sensible and hit go. What I'd be expecting to happen now is that the bus will stop somewhere between 10 and 20 seconds because that's the minimum and the maximum that we've set. And the number between 10 and 20 will be randomly chosen. So you don't have any control about where in that range it is, but as many different buses will stop, you would expect to see different numbers being chosen randomly within that 10 to 20 range. Okay, so we can see a bus pulling into the PT stop here, and just have a look at the clock just after 2 minutes past 7, and if I click the simulation on and then off it goes, and we're at 20 seconds past 2 minutes, and so that was about an 18-second stop for that bus. So you can see between that 10 and 20 seconds. And here's another one stopping, and that will have been a slightly different time for that one. Okay, so very, very simple to understand the minimum and maximum. Now we can also vary the minimum and maximum by time frame. So you might say that in a particular time of day, the buses are likely to stop for longer than another time of day, and so we can introduce a variation. Now if I just add in an extra time from here for 5 minutes past 7, and I'm going to make that 60 seconds maximum and 30 seconds minimum, and then we'll save that and go back to my Visualize tab and refresh the model, and then have a look at the impact that this has on the PT services. Okay, so here I've got the first bus coming in at 7 and that one's stopping for about 20 seconds again. I'm going to run this on so we get to after 7. And after 7, then we're going to be expecting the buses to stop between 30 and 60 seconds. And so we're just coming up to it now. And here's the first bus stopping at 7. And you can see that it's already stopped for longer than the previous ones. And it's still there right up to the 6 minutes, and you can see the next bus coming along. So that one will have stopped for almost a full 60 seconds. And our next bus is coming along. And again, we're going to be expecting this to stop somewhere between 30 and 60 seconds. And we can see in the timing at the bottom there that that's what happens for this bus as well. There's one other aspect I'd like to show you about this feature, and that's the ability to export it from the inspector. So I've opened up the inspector from the Edit Network menu, and in there I can go to PT service stop times. Now you can see for the PT stop 72, we've now got the stop times, including the maximums and minimums under the stop time column. And I can export that from Paramics Discovery. I can save it as a CSV file, and then when I open up that CSV file, we'll be able to see the new minimums and maximums included in the data. So whatever changes you've made, you'll be able to see them in this. And so when you're reviewing or auditing a model, this can be a very useful tool to do that. Okay, so that's the feature about PT service dwell times. It's quite a small feature, very easy feature to use and understand, but can just add a bit more realism to the models that you develop. So the next feature I want to show you today is the ability to capture movies from your Paramics Discovery simulation. Now, in previous versions of Paramics Discovery and in Paramics before that, if you wanted to create movies from the simulation, you needed to capture a series of individual frames. And whilst it was possible to do, it was often a lot of files that you had to work with and then stitch those together to create your movie outside of Paramics. But now it's very, very simple to capture your movie within the Visualize tab of Paramics Discovery, and we're going to look at how to do that in this workshop today. Now, before we go into the detail of the movie capture, I also want to show you another feature which isn't new but is very useful and really ties in with movie capture, and that's the ability to store and to recall different views of the model. And so that means you are able to look at the simulation from different angles, and it gives a richness and a perspective to the model as you're capturing the movie. So if I go to my Visualize menu and Store View, I can see in here that I've already got 6 views stored of the model and then a few empty in which I can store some new views. So let's have a look at the 6 that I've got stored already, and I can simply see those by hitting the numbers 1, then 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and you can see how the angle of the model changed as I moved around all of those different views. And so when you're capturing a movie, it's a very good idea to just store those views and then cycle through those numbers to see it from different angles. Now I'm going to store a new view here, and I do that by going to Store View, clicking on it, and I'm just going to type in the number 7, and it's picking up whatever angle I've got on the screen at that moment. So what you see on the screen now is number 7, and I'm going between 6 and 7 there to show you that. So I've now got 7 views stored in my list, and you can have up to 10. You can also store them by hitting the Control and the number, and that opens up the Store View option. And by hitting Control 7 there, I can overwrite that view and I can apply that. So I've got a slightly different view for number 7. Okay, now if I go to the Visualize menu again and recall, you can see all the different views that are available from 1 to 7 in there. So I had 6 in the model originally, I've just added a 7th, and I recall them by cycling through the numbers themselves. Okay, now let's have a look at the movie capture. There's 2 buttons here that you can use. One is a single frame capture, sometimes useful if you just want the image that's on your screen at a given moment. And you click that button and it can save it in various formats. The default's PNG there in this case, and that's saved my single frame capture. And the button beside that is for my movie capture. Now, before we capture the movie, one thing that we just need to think about is the speed that the simulation is running. And you can see the playback speed option here beside the movie capture toggle. Now, that's set to 1, but 1 is probably quite slow. When you're watching a simulation, it will be playing as real time essentially. So we're probably going to want to increase that number for viewing the simulation. Now, a good way to test the speed that you want is to use the speed menu at the bottom of the Visualize tab, and you can see a wide range of speeds in there that you can try. So I've set that to 20, and what we're seeing on the screen at the moment is 20 times real time. Now that's perhaps a little bit quick for the movie that we want to show, so we'll maybe drop that down to 10 times real time, and I think that's quite a reasonable speed. You might want to go a little bit lower, but you can see quite well what's happening within the network at 10 times real time, so we could go for that. Now I'm just going to hit it to max just to get some more traffic on the network, so we can have a slightly more populated network as we capture our movie. And then I'll slow that down again to the 10 times real time for the movie capture. So that's the speed that I'm visualizing it at the moment, but I also need to change the playback speed at the top, and that's the speed that it's going to be recorded is also 10. Okay, I've got a bit more traffic on the network. I'm going to hit my movie capture button here, and I'll save that just with the default name of a movie. And that is now saving what's happening on the screen as a movie. And so now what I can do is cycle through the different views of the model. So you'll remember we've got 7 stored views in there, and I can simply cycle through those views and it will continue to capture the movie and save that into that movie file for me. So I'm just hitting 1, 2, 3, and so on as I move around the network, capturing the simulation from different angles, and that's all being stored into the movie file automatically. Okay, and that's my number 7. And back to the bird's eye view. And all I need to do is hit the button again, and that will stop the movie capture for me. Okay, so that's that done. Let's have a look at the files that have been saved. So you can see here in my model folder, I've got this frame, and that was the single frame capture that I did of the network. And you may want to do that of your network. And then the file below that is the movie. And you can see I've got the movie file saved, and it's playing back at 10 times real time, which is the speed that I chose as the playback speed. And you can see it now cycling through the different angles, just as I did when I was capturing the movie. Okay, so this is now really easy to do in Paramics Discovery, to use one button to capture your movie. And it's also a reminder of the store views and the recall view options, so that you can see your model from different angles and really make your movies look good and see some different perspectives of the model. The remaining features that I'd like to demonstrate to you from Paramics Discovery 24 and in this workshop all fall under a banner of what we might call visual enhancements. And hopefully you can see from the screen at the moment that we've made a series of improvements to how Paramics Discovery can look as a 3D simulation. And I'm going to go through some of those in this workshop today and show you how easy it is to apply some of these changes and just make your models look really good, really quickly and really easily. So to demonstrate these visual enhancements in Paramics Discovery, I'm going to use the model in front of me. Now the first enhancement is a small one, but it's useful nonetheless, and that's an improvement to the visual appeal of the grid. And what you can see now, which is slightly different than previous versions, is that it's very easy to see the scale of the model from a bird's eye view. And I can turn the grid on using the hotkey G there. Now, if I zoom into one of the junctions in the model, the next thing you might notice is that the curbs around the corners of these junctions are now very smooth. And I can turn the curb points on at the top. Now, previously there were straight lines drawn between these curbs, but now we've got this nice smooth line. And if I move the curb around, you can see the smooth line will move with it. Now, it doesn't have any impact on the vehicle behavior. If I turn my trajectory lines on, we can see that the smooth paths that the vehicles take through the junction are the same as previous versions. So it's really just a visual enhancement, but it will make your models look better at those junctions where you can now have these nice automated smooth curbs instead of the straight lines. Okay, now the next thing I'd like to show you requires me to open up the Styles panel, and I'm going to expand the links section of that. Now, there's a new option in here called tire marks, and if I switch that on, you can see on the network we now have two colors on the links. There's the tire marks and then the bits of the road that the vehicles don't actually drive on. So it just brings a little bit of subtlety into the colors and the visualization of the road by adding in those tire marks and just adding a mix of those shades of grey on the road rather than just one block color can make it just look a little bit better. Now, another thing that makes it look better is the pavements, and I can switch those on in my styles panel. But to actually see them, I need to add some of them onto my links. So I'm selecting a few links here and right-clicking and going to properties. And then my properties, I'm simply going to toggle on pavement. By ticking that on, it will add pavements onto all of the links that I have selected. And you can see that there's a standard size of pavement which is added onto the side of the link. Now, one of the nice things about pavements is if I go into the 3D mode, and I can do that by hitting the full stop on my keyboard, you can see the pavements have a slight height in them. So when you're visualizing your simulation in 3D, you get a nice height effect around the pavements and a little bit of shadow. And again, that just makes the visual appeal that much better. Now, if I select my whole network here and tick the pavements on, you can see that it very, very quickly and easily adds pavements onto every road. And I can turn that on and off using the Styles panel as well. So just with those couple of changes, some tire marks and some pavements, you can see a much richer visual of the road itself than we had previously. Okay, now the next thing I'd like to show you is a really, really great new feature in Paramics Discovery 24, and that is the new annotation palette. And you'll find this in the Edit Network menu. So if I go to Edit Network, Annotation Palette, you can see this new dialog opens up at the top of the screen here. And if I go to the Folders tab on that, it will tell me a little bit of information about how this works. Now, there's 3 default folders in there. These will be created when you install Paramics Discovery, and they're in a resources folder, which will be installed on your hard drive. And you will get within those resources a series of different 3D shapes. Okay, and you can see the 3D shapes that are toggled on the right hand side of this list. So that's a default set of 3D shapes that you get. You could also add in your own 3D shapes. So if you click on an add button here, and I'm just going to pick a random folder just to show you how to do it. You could add in any folder with your own 3D shapes or images or overlays, and it will get added into the list. So you can build up this list of folders where you can access different shapes to apply into your model. Now we're going to focus on the 3D shapes today because that's the new part. The images and overlays have been in models for a long time. And you can see in the collection of default 3D shapes, there's a variety of different objects. And by scrolling along, you can see very clearly what those objects are and what they're going to look like in your model. Now, the great thing about this annotation palette is that you can drag and drop the 3D shapes directly into your model. So it's so quick and so easy to use. And you can see there, I can just simply drag and drop this bin onto the pavement. And once it's there, I can move it easily. I can also rotate it. I could also change the height of it as well if I had heights in this particular model. So that's one 3D shape there on the side of the pavement. I'm going to add in some more. I've got a bus stop here in my network, so I'll scroll along and find my bus shelter and also the bus stop. I'll just drop those two items in really quickly and position and rotate those. So that's my bus stop, and then the bus shelter here. I'll just drag that along a bit and then rotate that to set it correctly on the pavement. And I'm just going to make the screen a little bit bigger, and you can see there I've got this bus shelter and bus stop placed in the model really easily, and it looks really good. Okay, now if I go back to my annotation palette and have a look at some of the other objects I could place in. Let's say some trees in here. And I've got a variety of different kinds of trees. And what else might we put in? We could put in some benches, a couple of picnic tables maybe. I've got a telephone box there. So I'm just dropping in a few shapes just as examples and ideas of what you can do, and just to really demonstrate how easy it is to drag and drop them into your model. And as I say, there's a nice set of default 3D shapes here that you can use, but you can always add your own in as well. And whatever shape you add into those folders, you'll be able to drag and drop into the model. Now I'm going to place a fence along here, and partly doing that to show you that you can also duplicate 3D shapes once they're in the model by right-clicking and hitting duplicate. So you can see there I can duplicate the fence and lay that fence along the side of the road as a result. So right-click, duplicate, and move that into place. Okay, so I'm not going to add in any more 3D shapes. The key thing is that you get the idea. You can see how quick and easy it is to add them in, dragging and dropping, also duplicating them within the window. Now what I want to do next though is show you some of the other improvements we've made in the Visualize tab. So I'm going to click across to Visualize. And you'll see there that the 3D shapes that we added into the Edit Network tab are all in the Visualize tab as well, and the tire marks and the pavements. So everything you do in the Edit Network tab translates across when you're visualizing the model. But a couple of things specific to the Visualize tab I'll be able to access within the Styles panel here. And one of them is to do with the sky. So if I open up this background section, I can see my options for the sky. Now you can see that sky is toggled on in this model, and the first 4 options on that list were in the previous versions of Paramics Discovery, but these bottom 2 are new, and you might be able to tell that they're slightly different. And the difference is that these bottom 2 options are actually a sphere right around the background. So it wraps all the way around the model, whereas the top 4 options are a hemisphere. And so when you've got the sphere on, you can see that the horizon's lower. With the hemisphere, you've got that deeper horizon, and the land looks a lot bigger. Now, you're going to see in a minute why that's quite useful, because it's when it's combined with another new feature called ground. And when I switch that on, you can see the ground appears, and with the ground combined with the new sky brings that horizon a little bit closer. And so you don't get this sense of your models just being a really vast expanse beyond the road network. They feel a bit more contained and a bit more realistic, I think. I think that's a really nice combination there of the ground and the casual sky option. Now, if I zoom out, you can see that the ground is actually like an island, which automatically gets drawn around your network, whatever size your network is. Okay, and as I move around from different angles, I hope you'll agree that this visual appeal now of the combination of the new sky options with the ground are really nice. Okay, now the next stage is obviously to get the traffic on the network and get some vehicles and see those in 3D. So we'll hit play and we've got some traffic going. And you can see that it's moving through the network. I'm just going to change the details of the vehicles a little bit so that we see those detailed vehicles from further distances. And a really lovely touch now is this one, which is the hotkey X, and it's also in the styles panel, and that's the ability to put shadows in the network. Now the shadows work with that ground layer, so you need to have the ground on for the shadows to work, but you can see that the shadows apply to all of those 3D shapes that we've added in. They apply to the pavements and the vehicles as well. Now here's a model that I worked on a little bit earlier, and I've just added in a few more 3D shapes than the previous one. So here's one I made earlier, if you like. And hopefully you get now a really good sense from this model, which has not been a lot of work. It's just 20 minutes or so to add it in these 3D shapes, that you get a really nice visual display of Paramics Discovery now. It's that combination of a bit more detail on the road network with the tire marks and the pavements, all of those default 3D shapes, which are so easy to add in by dragging and dropping them, and the combination of the sky and the ground, which makes the background to the model just look more realistic and much nicer. And then, of course, those shadows, which add a depth to the model as well. So I hope you'll agree that this now looks really good, but the really important thing that we've wanted to do is to make it really easy and really quick, so you're not adding loads of budget and time to your projects to be able to fulfill these visual enhancements. So that's it for today's workshop, and I'd like to thank you once again for joining us as we've looked today at 3 really useful features coming into Paramics Discovery version 24. The ability to vary the dwell times of public transport, the ability to now capture movies in a single movie file, and various visual enhancements which are coming into this version. And as I said at the beginning, Paramics Discovery 24 is going to be launched this month, September 2020, so you'll be able to use all of these new features in just a couple of weeks' time. Keep a lookout for the launch. We hope that you like it, and please get in touch with us if you've got any questions or comments about it at all. We'd really love to hear from you. Thank you once again for joining us today, and we'll see you soon.